Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Dr. Erin Amato with Montana Psychiatry and Brain Health Center and also with the Center for Ideal Health. And I'm so pleased that you're able to join me today for just some tips I have for you on surviving the upcoming time change that we have coming up this weekend, but also some tips on beating the winter blues because this is that time of year where the days get shorter, we're exposed to less light, and I think a lot of people start to feel a decline in mood and in their energy levels. So now's the time to really be proactive about how to get on top of that. So yeah, we have the fall time change coming up this weekend. So don't forget to change your clocks Halloween night. And this is the fall forward. So my son, who's in middle school, said, "Now wait, is this the one where we get an extra hour of sleep?" And so I said, "Yes, we get the extra hour of sleep." So a lot of people do a little bit better with the adjustment to this time change compared to the one that happens in the spring. But the thing that I don't like about this time change is this is where we start coming out of work at the end of the day and it's already getting dark and it won't be very long before we come out of work and it's completely dark. Um, so it is still fall technically, but try convincing our Montana weather that that is the case. We have just gone through a week of a lot of snow and bitterly cold temperatures, which it's not unusual in Montana to get a little bit of a snowstorm in September or October. Usually, though, it only sticks around a day or two, and this one went on for quite a long time. So I think for a lot of us, it was a preview for the winter to come. And we were really spoiled this year with our fall. Beautiful September. Most of October was beautiful. And so, just in terms of trends that we see here in the office, I think that our patients were doing better mood wise with the better weather during the fall. But when the change happened with the cold, snowy weather, the dreary days, I really started seeing in my patients that they were struggling more with mood. So, a lot of these tips I'm sharing with you today have to do with conversations I've been having with people in the office, and that's why I thought it was relevant to bring this up with you. Um, on top of the time change, the change in the weather, keep in mind too, this year is a year like no other in terms of the disruption in our daily routines, our social connections, and just the level of fear and anxiety that people have been dealing with now for several months. So we've got the ongoing stress of the pandemic and the consequences of the shutdown and how that's having an impact. We have the stress of the upcoming election, and regardless of what side you're on, just the amount of negativity that we're all surrounded with the constant ads and the huge flyers that are clogging up our mailboxes, I think that's really taking a toll on a lot of people. Um, there's also the stress of things like virtual school for you parents out there that are dealing with that with your kids at home. um, just the ongoing worries that people have about the virus itself, the social isolation, financial worries that have come with some of the consequences of the last few months. And another big one, too, I don't know that a lot of people are thinking about this yet, but we're now talking about a big disruption in our usual holiday activities that we look forward to, and a big disruption in the way that we usually gather and connect with friends and family. So I know Halloween's coming up, and in some areas, um, there's really not going to be much trick or treating, or so that's something that's kind of different for kids. But now we're talking about Thanksgiving too, and how a lot of families won't be getting together, and even Christmas, talking about how that's going to be disrupted. So I think that's just one more thing that's being added to this that's making life more stressful for people. And I just want to remind everyone of how important it is to really try to manage your stress because stress has negative impacts on not only mental and emotional health, but also your physical health and even the strength of your immune system. And right now, with everything that's going on, we want to do everything we can to bolster the strength of our immune systems. So, with this downturn in energy that a lot of people have during this time of year, I mean, it's a very common thing, but for some people, it becomes pretty severe, pretty noticeable, to the point that we even have a diagnosis called, we abbreviate it as SAD, SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And so here are 5 tips I have for you to try to beat this and really get on top of it. So, the first thing is exercise. Um, I know we hear a lot about the benefits of exercise, but I don't think people give enough credit to the benefits that exercise can have in terms of your mood and your memory. So now being in Montana, because it does get so cold during the winter, you often have to get more creative with how you're going to get your exercise in, just because we don't have the option of those same outdoor activities that we look forward to in the summertime. So um, and you also, I mean, if you're going to talk about the benefits of exercise, you have to be really disciplined about thinking of how to incorporate this into your routine on a regular basis, because consistency is important. So you really need to make it a priority. And so my suggestion is to aim for at least 4 to 5 days a week of 20 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise. Now, if for some reason you're not able to get 20 minutes in. If it's only 10 minutes, that's fine. Something is better than nothing. And then if you're able to make up for it on another day with 45 minutes, that's great too. So just try to be consistent in terms of showing up to do that exercise 4 to 5 days a week, because the evidence is so strong that it can really help with mood and with even long-term benefits with memory. And so in terms of things to be thinking about with getting creative with that indoor exercise, of course, there's gym memberships. And depending on where you live right now in the country, it may not be an option to be exercising in the gym, or maybe you don't feel comfortable being around others. So if you're looking for options to exercise at home, there are things like at-home gym equipment. One thing that's really popular right now is something like the Peloton or Nordic track bike or treadmill. Also, if you don't want to have the expense of that at-home equipment, there are even apps that you can go on that have a great library of different exercise you can do. And that's something that Peloton also offers. I think it's about $20 a month, but it gives you a whole library of different exercise options. And then another low cost or actually free option is just looking on YouTube for different videos or routines for uh, things like HIIT, which stands for high intensity interval training. You can go on YouTube and find all kinds of suggestions. So that's tip number one, is exercise. Tip number two is maintaining a sleep routine and having healthy sleep habits. So this is a really important one with the time change, because yes, you get that extra hour of sleep, um, but you need to make sure then that you're adjusting for that extra hour somewhere and making sure that you go to bed at a consistent time. So, so my suggestion is to aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and also have a consistent bedtime and wake up time. So even on the weekdays and on the weekends, to try to be consistent. The other thing is to try to establish some relaxing bedtime rituals that really get you prepared for a good night's sleep. So some things that can help with that would be you can do Epsom salts baths. Epsom salts contain magnesium, and magnesium can really help with promoting relaxation. And Epsom salts are very cheap. You can buy them at the pharmacy. You can buy them at big stores like Walmart. You can buy a big bag of them, even the unscented ones, and then you can add your own essential oils. Things like lavender can be great for relaxation. And you can just put a few drops of that in with the Epsom salts. Another important suggestion is to get off of screens. So smartphones, tablets, Kindles, laptops, get off of screens 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. And that's important to keep in mind too. If you like to read before bedtime, it's probably best to stick with old school books instead of reading off of a tablet. Because the problem is with screens, the screens emit light, and light tells the brain that it's time to be awake and alert. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. Also, you want to make sure that the room is cold enough, somewhere in the area of even 65 degrees. I know that sounds pretty chilly, but you can always make up for it with extra blankets or things like that if you need to. But 65 degrees, give or take a few degrees, that can really make a huge difference in the quality of your sleep. It's important to really minimize the amount of light that's in the room. So even things like night lights can sometimes disrupt the quality of people's sleep. Um, it may mean that you need some blackout curtains or things like that to really keep the room dark. And on that note as well, I suggest not having the TV on to fall asleep, because often people leave the TV on for several hours. So it would be better to do something like maybe play a podcast that you know is only 30 minutes in length, or some of the apps that are out there for sleep and relaxation, like the Calm app. They have a whole library of sleep stories where it's maybe a 20 or 30-minute chapter from a book read by someone with a soothing voice. And that can really help you with falling asleep, but then not be playing that content all night long. And then another thing, actually, Heidi chimed in the chat and she said meditation is very helpful for me. And that was my next suggestion, was meditation at bedtime can be really helpful. And again, the Calm app has some excellent meditation modules, some that are even specifically for winding down at bedtime that you should check out. So that's tip number 2, is maintaining that sleep routine and having healthy sleep habits. The third tip I have for you is to eat well. And I know some of these sound like very basic, very common things, and it's easy to just dismiss them. But when I think of eating well and the link with brain health, it reminds me of a song from the 60s that I used to like, a Jefferson Airplane song where they talk about feed your head. And that's really what we're talking about. When you're feeding your body, whatever food it is, you're also feeding your head. And there's a very strong link between the food we eat and the quality of our mood. So please keep that in mind. So when we're talking about eating well, sticking with things like vegetables, moderate amounts of fruit, healthy oils. So when I say healthy oils, these are things like olive oil and avocado oil. You really want to eliminate things like canola oil, soybean, corn, and vegetable oils. Even though they might sound healthy because it says things like vegetable oil, these are actually very inflammatory oils that are not good for brain health. So it's really best to stick with olive and avocado oil. Seafood can be another brain boosting food, particularly things like wild caught salmon. And I say wild caught because that is preferred over farm raised salmon. But salmon's a great brain food because it's really high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are very, very important for brain health. Nuts and seeds can be a healthy food. And then lean and clean proteins, things like grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken, eggs from pasture-raised chickens. These are all things that are kind of at the top of the quality list when it comes to proteins for brain health. And one great thing about this time of year, fall and winter, is it's soup season. So this is a great time for soups and stews and chilies. Can be very easy to prepare. You can get lots of vegetables and healthy things into these soups and stews without a lot of preparation. So be thinking of those sorts of recipes that you might want to look for. And I might even try to post some on the website. But one big suggestion I have for you is to really try to stay away from what we think of as being the comfort foods or sugary foods. So this is one thing that people often turn to when they're dealing with seasonal depression and feeling down, is turning to sugary foods like cookies and cake and candies. And even though those things might taste great and make us feel good in the short term, in the long run, they're really not good for brain health. They can be very inflammatory. They can cause blood sugar issues. So really try to stick with the healthier foods. So that brings us to tip number 4. And I call this tip meaningful mornings. And I'm sure this sounds like no surprise to anyone, but our moods tend to be better when we feel our lives are meaningful and filled with purpose. And often we need to carve out time to find that meaning and purpose in our lives. And, the world is so busy right now. Our lives are very hectic to where it's easy to just go from one day to the next with things blending together and feeling very task oriented, like we have a to-do list that we need to accomplish and get through, but not always taking much time to find meaning and purpose and connection. And all of these things are so important. So in order to promote these meaningful mornings, first thing is get a notebook. It doesn't have to be fancy or expensive, although you might want to get something that's a little bit special so that it doesn't just get blended in with your other piles of papers. But get yourself a notebook that you use as kind of your morning journal or morning notebook. And use this notebook to think about and write down some different daily intentions and things that are important to think about as you start your day. So one thing could be asking yourself the question, what are three things I'm grateful for today? It's a simple question. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it can be thought provoking if we don't take the time to think of these things. And in addition to meaning and purpose, adding um, so many important things in our lives and promoting good mood, gratitude has been shown to promote good mood. So asking yourself that question, what are three things I'm grateful for today? And I would even write it down in that notebook as a today I am grateful for. And I think that gets your brain thinking in that mode of I am grateful for. And so as you go throughout your day, I think that you'll be tuned in more to the world around you and thinking about maybe what you'll put in your journal the next morning. Another question that can be important is, what can I do today to make someone else's day better? And asking yourself this question starts getting you tuned in to being aware of what's happening with the people around you. And that helps to enhance connections. Also, we get a boost mood wise when we feel like we're doing good things for other people. Another important phrase could be, today I will be, and then fill in the blank. You can fill in the blank with something that you aspire to do better, something that you know is going to make your life better or the lives of others. So maybe it's today I will be patient. Today I will be gentle. Today I will be more optimistic. And I would also suggest, in addition to writing it in the notebook, that you maybe write whatever the word is, patient, gentle, optimistic, write it down on a sticky note that you then take through the day with you, put it on your computer, put it somewhere you're going to see it so you're prompted throughout the day to remember that word. The other important thing about that today I will be phrase is we often think of our to-do list and we think of being very task oriented and checking things off. So we focus more on today I will do instead of today I will be. And that I be phrase is one that brings more meaning and purpose. And then the last thing you can do to bring more meaning to your mornings is things like um, affirmations. So, and this is something you can Google daily affirmations, and there are a ton of examples that you can find on Google. And some of them might feel a little bit silly. They might not feel like they quite fit. So, read through a bunch of them, find what resonates with you, and write down maybe 10 phrases that you come across. Um, but even the ones that don't feel like they fit, I encourage you to say these things, rehearse them in your mind. Sometimes it's a matter of fake it till you make it. You tell yourself these positive things, and it really helps to combat some of the negative automatic thoughts that we tend to have as we go throughout our day. So, some examples of those affirmations might be things like, I am strong and capable. It's a simple phrase, but for a lot of people who battle depression and anxiety, that's not how they would necessarily see themselves. But it's an important phrase or mantra that could really help with lifting mood. Another one could be, I am courageous and will tackle the challenges that come my way. If you tell yourself something like that over and over as you go throughout your day, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's important to do those things. One that I came across that I liked for myself was, my possibilities are endless. I really liked that one. So again, these are things that you could put down on a post-it note, put it where you can see it so that it prompts you as you go throughout your day. So again, as you deal with those challenges, it helps bring you back to what you had set as your intention and those affirmations that you had done in the morning. And this brings me to my final tip for you for how to thrive during the time change and also to beat the winter blues, and that is light therapy. Now, light is a very important component of mood and energy level, and that's why so many people um, suffer more from low mood and depression during these winter months. And light therapy has actually been studied since the 1980s. There's science to back up the use of this, and I think it's underutilized in psychiatry. Often we really focus on medications uh, in terms of trying to manage symptoms. And so I really love the idea of light therapy because you can use it along with medications, and it really can make a big difference. So this is a tool that can be used for seasonal depression. It's also used in some other cases of depression. It's also used to help with jet lag, shift work, sleep problems, and um, I want to say too, the ideal is still to get some outdoor light exposure. So even during our cold winter months, please try to make an effort to be outside for some period of time. And you don't get the same benefits with tanning. First of all, I hear a lot of people say, oh, I go tanning in the winter because I think that helps my mood. Um, Scientifically, that has not been shown to be helpful. So, so I encourage you to not be tanning because also it raises your risk of skin cancer. Another thing is that standing by a window or getting light through the windshield of a car doesn't give you the same benefits as either doing the light therapy or doing the outdoor exposure. So first, one of the first considerations with light therapy is some safety considerations. So for people with bipolar mood disorders, there can be some risk of the light therapy triggering mania. So if you do light therapy and you notice that you're experiencing any increased agitation, any significant increase in energy level, hyperactivity, euphoric mood, it would be time to back off the light therapy. And if you're seeing a doctor, to consult with that person. Also for certain medical conditions where there may be sensitivity to light, like lupus, or when people are taking certain medications where they're sensitive to light, you would want to be cautious about using light therapy and consult with your doctor. But other positive things about safety, like I said, you can use the light therapy along with antidepressant or other psychiatric medications. It can be used during pregnancy. So for women who are experiencing some mood issues during pregnancy, this can be a safe option. So one of the first things you need to consider too is picking a device. Now, there are a lot of devices out there, and actually Amazon is a pretty good source for finding um, a lot of different options. And some options are even as low cost as around $30. But the problem with those is the dimensions are not necessarily big enough to give you the type of coverage that you need to be effective. So when you're trying to pick a device, it's important to look for one that has an intensity of 10,000 lux, LUX as the unit. And for dimensions, it's, I think I had read somewhere the recommendation was something like 12 to 15 inches. It can be difficult to find one that's quite this big. I actually have a light therapy panel here that I bought this week that I was going to show to you. I'll see if I can get it in the frame here, but you can see how big this actually is. And I got this one because of the size of the panel, but also it has an arm on it that you can bend it easily so that it can be at the proper angle for administering the light therapy. And it also has a really sturdy base so it can sit on a desktop. You also want to find a light box that has a UV filter to protect your eyes. And there's not any insurance coverage for this. The range of the ones that I looked at on Amazon that were big enough dimensions, 10,000 lux, it looked like they were around $100 to $300. So I know that sounds like a big upfront expense, but if this is something that really helps your mood, um, I think it's going to be well worth the investment because this is something that you can use year after year. Multiple family members could use it. With this one, I purchased two from Amazon, and the brand on it is Carex, Carex. Um, it has two settings. It has a setting for the therapy, which is the 10,000 lux, but then it also has a switch for it being just a task light at your desk. And so that is at 5,000 lux. So I thought that was interesting. In terms of the how-to of doing light therapy properly, first you need to do it first thing in the morning after you wake up. That's where you're going to really achieve the most benefits. And you need to do it for 30 minutes in terms of the length of time. So this means you really have to think about reworking your morning routine. Um, Make it a priority, just like the exercise. Think about how you're going to work it into your routine so you get that 30 minutes. And you should follow the manufacturer's instruction on the box in terms of distance. and the angle of how to position the light. But in most cases, you need to be within 24 inches, within just 2 feet of that light box to get the maximum benefit. And that's why having a bigger panel makes a difference. If you have just a small, skinny panel that sits down below on the desk, if you turn your head, if you turn your eyes away from it, then you're missing out on the benefits. So it's better to have that wider panel. Um, the light needs to be indirect in terms of where your eyes are looking, but your eyes do need to be open. So I did see some devices on Amazon that were supposed to be a dual alarm clock and light therapy, something that you would sit on the nightstand and it would gradually get brighter and help to wake you up. But if you're still sleeping with your eyes closed, you're not getting the benefits of the light therapy device. So my other suggestion with this is to really think about the activities that you're going to do for that 30 minutes while you're sitting in front of the light box. I really suggest that as you start your day, if you want the best setup for your best mood possible, try to avoid any content that is known to increase anxiety or thoughts of negativity. So this would be things like avoiding social media and avoiding the news, particularly right now. Um, Instead, other things that you could do, you could have your breakfast in front of the light box. If you like to have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, you could do that. And then I suggest things like listening to a podcast. Listen to something educational or uplifting. Two that I really like are there's one called The Good Life Project. I think it's Jonathan Fields is the gentleman who's over the Good Life Project. I also like the Doctor's Pharmacy from Dr. Mark Hyman. So both of those are really good ones. Some other activities you could do, read something inspirational or for enjoyment. You know, for some people, it's hard to find the time daily to carve out just to read for pleasure. So that would be a great time. You could journal, you could draw, you could work on crafts, cross stitch, you know, whatever it is, crossword puzzles that you like to do. And this would be a perfect time to go back to tip number 4 and do some of your meaningful morning activities with those setting intentions and those positive daily affirmations. So those are all the tips I have for you today. I wish everybody luck as you go through the time change this weekend. And as we head further into our fall and into winter, I also wish everybody to be happy and well as we head into this holiday season too, that we will be celebrating differently. But I think looking for ways to make this season meaningful and joyful as well. Thank you.